Hi everyone, this is my YouTube special every month. And what I do is I take a student's painting and I paint on top of it, then I toggle back and forth. And as I'm painting on it, I describe what I'm doing, why I'm making the changes that I make. And a lot of times, a lot of the students make similar errors. So I think watching other people, what other people do helps us grow as artists. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. This is a board. I do long, it's called long distance learning, and it's every Monday at around 1 o'clock. And what happens is at Sunday, the students will send their boards or their paintings to us. And then my husband puts them on this board. And then we put them up, and then they come into a Zoom meeting and they can watch each other's critique. So that's where this came from. This is one of the students that I worked on. So what I do is I enlarge the painting. And as you can see, I have the photo next to it. So a little bit smaller. Okay, so and then we use this program. It's called Artrage, and I have 3 other videos on my YouTube channel that you can watch. So this is the other thing that I suggest is not to work from photos until you've done enough life study, because what I do is I bring to the photo what I've learned from painting from life. So this is a gray, kind of a gray day. So the colors are not as exaggerated as they normally are. And on a gray day, do you see how there's still light dark patterns. And what's happening here is this is silhouetted against the background. So everything here is darker than anything in the background. This is in shadow, this is in shadow, this is in light. This is probably one of your lightest light is over here. This is probably your secondary light. So if you look how warm the shadow is. This is in shadow, this is in light. So on a gray day, the light usually has a tendency of going cooler. There could also be internal lighting that makes this warmer. Okay, so what I do is I'm going to start by, as you can see, it's broken up. You don't have that silhouette against the background. So what I normally do on a lot of my changes is simplify the form. Okay, so we start out with a simpler, right? I don't even see the variation in color yet. I'm just trying to get this to be a silhouette against the background. And it is a little bit cooler. I'm going to put this down, and then I'm going to add some cool to this. And probably later on I'll change these 2 colors. What is happening here is there's an inside versus an outside. So the inside is probably a little bit darker. That's the inside. I'm thinking about what's the inside of this face look like. And then this over here, let me make it smaller. And this over here is also too light. So that's a simple version of the vase. So let's look at it. Okay, and the other thing is I'm trying not to repeat the color, and I'm also comparing the colors. Okay, so now there's a shadow note here. So there's a shadow note here. Might be a little bit cooler. I'm going to start with a cooler note, and then later on I'll come in. Too dark. Okay, so here I'm going to just put a big mass here, because there's a wrinkle here, so you're getting a little bit of this shadow part here. And then there's a few shadow notes here and notes there. Now I'm going to go to a cooler light plane. It's pretty light. And this is your first lay-in that I will work a little bit on. But see how I'm simplifying these? And that's what I really find with students, that the first lay-in is really simple color notes. Okay, so I've got it. Now I'm going to go to the plants or the flowers. Okay, so this is these are all in shadow, and I'm going to look at bigger color notes. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail. So for instance, okay, so you've got these leaves here, and like I say, on a gray day, the colors are more local than they are on a sunny day. So this is, these are all like this, the green part of this, these plants. Okay, and there's probably some here. And then I'm going to go to the these flowers. This is all so. Okay, so this is a big note of color here, and then this is here, and probably some here, over here, and then these, see, I'm keeping everything dark enough so they stay in the shadow, because this is silhouetted against the background, and this is in shadow. So the only thing that I see, yeah, they're pretty much all, and then I'm going to get these other plants here. These are, I'm not getting into too much detail yet. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this kind of grayish cloth, and also think, well, it has a little bit of a green quality to it, so it actually comes up here. So I'm going to just fill this in here. And then I'm going to go to light plain. So there's two. I actually think I need to go less yellow. Okay, so okay, so now I'm going to go to these outdoor greens, and they're not quite that yellow. They're cooler. Then I'm going to go to this this back wall, which is it isn't as dark as the vase. Actually, maybe I'll start with a lavender back there, and then I'm going to put some warmth in it. But it's in shadow. And there's like some chair back there. And it's warmer, a little bit warmer than the vase. I'm going to make the vase maybe a little bit cooler. And I'm going to add some of this to that purple. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the levelers. They're in shadow, but they're pretty light. There's a lot of light coming through them, so they're not very dark compared to the wall. So but I'm going to put them in a little bit of a shadow here. And I'm going to go to that wall. There's like a molding there. That's cooler. got this light hitting this part here. And then the that green bush out there is a kind of a silhouette. And that is probably pretty light, that sky. Okay, so this is my first lay-in. Let's look at it. I'll work a little bit longer on it. Okay, so let's, oops. Okay, so here is what the student sent, and this is my change. So I'm going to work a little bit longer on this and modify it and bring it closer to what I see here. Okay, but this is, I've tried to make color changes where I'm not repeating a color and silhouetting this. Okay, so now I'm going to make the vase a little bit darker right here. And then there's probably there's a little bit of a light on here. It's actually going to have a little bit of purple in it too. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this. But I'm still trying to keep this all in shadow, so I'm not making it so light that it falls out of the shadow now. A little bit redder here. And then this front gets a little bit lighter here. It's a little bit darker as it goes back. And I can keep, you know, adding colors to this and making color changes. But the second stage, I'm starting to modify some of the color notes. Okay, I think that's as much as I want to do on the vase right now. Okay, so now I'm going to add some warmth to this. I'm going to maybe, let's see, cool the light a little, even though it looks too dark. I'm not going to change the value. I'm just going to make it a little bit cooler. And maybe add some warmth to some of those shadows. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this kind of greenish, and I'm going, it's not quite that green, it's got a little bit of warmth to it, like a neutral, so I'm going to add this to that. Then I'm going to add that a little bit of pink to that, so it's not so green. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the green on the outside and add a little bit of value change, because there's some shadow, tree, light, dark, and maybe make it a little bit light, a little bit of purple. Add to that, so it stays back there. Okay, so now I'm going to add some little bit of warmth here. It's a little bit lighter. There, and I'm going to add some cool to the outdoor light. So now I'm going to make some little few changes on these colors here. Some light, dark. And then it gets a little bit cooler. Here, these are a little bit cooler. Okay, so now it's a little bit lighter over here. And then maybe here you got a little darker, and then it gets a little bit lighter. There's a little bit of okay, now I'm gonna work on these pinky flowers here. And then they have these little whatever here. I'm going to make a few dark. It's darker in darker here. And then cooler here. Okay, so I'm going to put some darks in the green. of these might get a little bit darker here, underneath here. It's going to maybe get a little bit of light there. So, you know, I could keep working on this, but this is basically the way I work on I start from, generally I start with simple big shapes, and then I keep modifying the form. Okay, so let's look at this from, see now you have, I'm gonna maybe make this a little bit lighter over here, because the light's coming from around. It's a little bit darker. Okay, so I think that's, let me just go back and forth again. Okay, so that's a gray day. And let me just make one other correction. I think a transition here. Later here. And then I'm going to add some. Okay, so this is going to be the last. I'm just going to maybe make these a little bit brighter in the foreground here. I'll make. And I'm gonna, maybe I'll make a color change here as the form turns, there's gonna be a little bit of a color change here. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this. Let me go back and toggle back and forth. Actually, I think this is a little bit too light now. I've got to actually make it a little bit cooler. A little bit cooler. Okay, well, thank you for listening. I do this once a month. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe, share, and I will see you again next month.